Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. By Oscar Wilde.
This quote sums it up so well that you need to become yourself. And a lot of the times when we talk about identity shifting, we think that it's about becoming someone new or becoming someone else. But in fact, I believe it's more about becoming our true self that we have buried under all expectations and all these other conditioning we have gone through life. The fastest way to a permanent change is by allowing yourself to become who you were meant to be. I want to share a story from my own life when I became a professional snowboarder and how the identity change really made me the snowboarder I was. I was snowboarding at a professional level for around 7 years, but before I became a snowboarder, I was just a regular boy growing up in Finland, going to school, having hobbies, and so on. But there was one time when I really thought that what do I want to do? And snowboarding seemed like a really interesting path. Skateboarding was my first choice, but I was never that talented in skateboarding, and in my opinion, snowboarding just needed more courage, and that's something I had. So I decided to become a snowboarder. I even moved to Helsinki from a small place where I grew up so I could realize this dream of becoming a snowboarder. And my snowboarding journey started out with just doing it. I just snowboarded a lot and I became better. I became more aware of what I actually want to aim to do, and I actually only focused on becoming a better snowboarder. I didn't think about how do I get money from this? How do I get sponsors? How do I find friends or a crew or a filmer? And all these things that eventually came into my life. I only focused on being as good as a snowboarder I could be. And that became my identity. It came from within. It wasn't something that I looked on the external and be like, yo, I want to be like that. It just was pure desire and will to explore that thing. When I eventually got sponsored and I got trips and contests and all these movie filming things that we did, they came as a result of me being a snowboarder. My self-concept was that I'm gonna be the best snowboarder I can. I watch snowboard things, I examine my own snowboarding, I film myself to see what I can improve, and so on. And that's why I became a snowboarder. There is something called the law of becoming. This is a concept that not many people talk about because in society today, it's more about what you have, what you do, and that determines what you become. But if we flip this whole concept the other way around and we start with the being, then the doing becomes natural. It's not forced effort, and the having is drawn into your life. So the person you become will naturally do the things that is necessary to get the things that person will eventually have. This is the core concept of this whole video. The first step in this process is becoming aware of the mask we all have. It's what Carl Jung calls the persona. It's the image we put onto the external world, what we think we want to be. And this mask is usually not the true self. This mask is built from external conditioning. It's built by what other people want from us and what society wants from us and what you should be doing in life. The second step in the process is becoming aware of the ideal self. What would you actually want to be? What do you want to represent? What kind of values do you want to have? What kind of habits do you want to have? And these two things, number one and number two, awareness of the mask and awareness of the ideal self, this becomes the first task. I want you to take out a paper and pen, and you divide the paper in half. And the first half of the paper is number one. That's the awareness of the mask. And the other half is number two, awareness of the ideal self. Then you start writing out, what habits does your current version of yourself have? And compared to that, what habits would your ideal version have? The next question is, what values do your current version have? And what values is your ideal version living by? The third step, who is the current version of yourself surrounded with, and who would your ideal version be surrounded with? These three questions and this comparison, this will set the whole base of your awareness from point A, where you're at the moment, to point B, where you actually want to go. And this exercise is the core for the whole transformation. And it's not enough that you just do the exercise. There will become practical life moments where you have to choose or solve a problem. And this next question is really valuable in that place. If I were my ideal self, how would I do this? When you ask yourself this question when you're faced with a challenge or a decision, it sometimes becomes obvious that the harder choice is probably the one you need to do. Because when you are in your comfort zone, aka the current version of yourself, you want to go where it's really easy and familiar. But when you have this base of what you actually want to do and who you want to be, then the answer is pretty obvious. You need to take those actions that the ideal version of yourself would do. The next step in the process, when you have this number one and number two columns ready, is to start visualizing your ideal day as your ideal self. How would you wake up? Where would you live? What kind of surrounding is there? What kind of habits would you have? What do you look forward to doing? And so on. And you go through the whole day, you do it as detailed as possible, and this becomes a mental image in your mind that this is what you strive for. And a lot of the times when you do this, and I've done this in the past, you soon realize it's like, wow, this just became my reality. So sketch up your dream day and be as accurate as possible. Put as many details as possible, because the better you can visualize your dream day, the more probable it will become your life. And just a small reminder here that even if you create the ideal day now, it doesn't mean that it can't change. It will change in the future, and that is the point. We grow continuously as humans, and we kind of need to do this exercise once in a while, every time we are ready to step into the next level of our development. And just some practical advice with this too is, when you start imagining your ideal day and your ideal choices and habits and values, trust those, because no one else can know what you want. And actually, the way I see it is, the biggest desires you have and all these visualizations and dreams you have, these are your highest potential. Everyone has unique desires and dreams, and if you don't trust your own desires and visions and dreams, you will never get there. And when you realize that you are worthy of achieving these and that you can trust in your own senses, in your own imagination, and that is the highest you can get in this moment, you will get forward because you will start believing that it's possible. What you hold in mind for long enough will manifest eventually into reality. And now we come to the last point in this step-by-step guide. What you want is wanting you. This is just how the universe works. And once you become that version and you act, feel, think in that way, you will start attracting those things that you want because it's natural for that person. This is why it's so important to be detailed on who you actually want to be, what kind of habits, manners, personality, all these things will affect what you draw into your life. But there is a really big pitfall here because a lot of people, when they go through this process, they start wanting it now. They want it as soon as possible and they measure things with time. This is a crucial step. Forget about time. Because when you start becoming who you actually are and who you desire to be, it doesn't matter. Those things will come and you have to trust in some higher power, God, universe, source, whatever you want to call it, that it's actually coming to you because it's natural to you. A millionaire doesn't worry about money because it's natural to them to have money and to go out and buy whatever they want. It's natural to them. So you have to let go of this worrying and negative thinking and limiting beliefs that your current version have. You have to step in and actually believe that you are this new identity and stay there for long enough, and it's by law, the things you desire will come into your life. And this is the tricky part. You kind of have to live in this limbo. It's kind of this in between where you've let go of your old self and you are the new self, but the external world isn't yet showing you that. And this is where most people fail because they start to hesitate, they start to question, they start to be, oh, maybe I'm not worthy, maybe this isn't for me, maybe it's not meant to me. This is why you need the first two exercises. You need to have a clear image of where you started from and where you're going, because this becomes your lifeline. You can check once in a while, oh, how far have I come from that version I started out from, and how close am I to this ideal version? Looking back is the only way you can see the path you've already walked. So just to recap these steps. First one, become aware of the mask. Second one, become aware of the ideal self. Third one, visualize the ideal day that you sense and you feel and you actually live it in your imagination. And 4, forget about time and trust that it's already on its way and that you can relax into this new identity. It's fine. You've already been taken care of. You don't need to worry. You just trust that this version that you have created from your mind, from your desires, from your wants, it's actually coming. You just have to stay patient. You never know when it will arrive. And if you've done all these steps and you still feel that there's something that isn't feeling right, that there's something blocking you, that you can't imagine this ideal self, or that there's just some restraint in this process, it might be that you have some kind of trauma, some kind of split in your psyche. And to get over that, you can watch this video here where I explain step by step how I overcame my trauma, and you can do the same.